Hey, hello and welcome. It is a great pleasure and honor to warmly welcome you to my seminar. My seminar entitled Reflective Writing, a Basic Introduction. Okay, so first of all, just I want to talk about, let's say, academic writing. Because in academic writing, we've got lots of kinds of writing, okay? However, there's interesting, let's say, a kind of argument. Which one is more difficult if you think about the skills in English, writing or speaking. Some people believe that speaking is a bit difficult because you have to speak at the same time. You have to think about and speaking, using, let's say, pronouncing words fluently. On the other hand, some people believe that no, writing, because writing is a kind of process. It needs a lot of thinking about, and you have to read, and you need, let's say, cited, acknowledge the sources. So, first of all, just in order to talk about, let's say, reflective writing is, as I said, is a part, or let's say, one of the kinds of academic writing. We have to, it's better to define what is academic writing. In other words, we have to know some characteristics of academic writing. Okay, so there's often a misconception that academic writing needs to be complex. Some believe that, when you say academic writing, it means the conception is, let's say, the ideas should be very complex, very complicated. Or some believe that involving long sentences. Doesn't mean that, okay? And complicated vocabularies. No. When we say academic writing, we don't mean that, let's say, we have a complex ideas, a complex, let's say, words, and very difficult words, vocabularies actually. So this is all about, let's say, wrong ideas, misconceptions about academic writing. Right. In fact, so surprisingly, academic writing needs to be clear, always. You have to be really clear, clear-cut, self-evident when you write something. And concise, should be very accurate, academic writing. In order to aid the learners' understanding. So you are going to help the learners, let's say, help the readers to understand easily, okay? To be helpful with the readers to, let's say, understand easily. Each subject discipline will have retained writing conventions and vocabulary and types of discourse. So when you write something, actually you have to think about what kind of writing do you want to write. Okay? So the first characteristics of academic writing is planned and focused. So you should have, let's say, a very good plan before writing something. Okay? For the planning, we've got some pointers here. Answer the question is that has been said. So in your writing, actually, you are going to answer some questions. It's not only you have to write something, you have to answer some question. You've got a question, you've got a problem, you are going to answer these questions and these problems. Secondly, we could demonstrate or show your understanding of the subject and how this relates to the question. So you are going to demonstrate, show, illustrate something that you fully understand about the subject, actually. This is what we call the first characteristics of the academic writing, should be planned and focused as well. Now, the second one should be structured, well structured, okay? Well organized. How? It's written in a well ordered and coherent way. Should be, in academic writing we have cohesion and coherence as well, okay? Secondly, is ordered in a logical manner. Should be logical, okay? Something should be reasonable, actually, okay? And bring together related to pointers and materials. So you have to well-connected ideas and, let's say, viewpointers, but definitely in an academic way. The third characteristics of the academic writing should be evidenced. It means we should have sources. Okay? In academic writing, we don't have such thing, just show your ideas and your viewpointers. You have to think about the sources, okay? Support your ideas, support your arguments by the evidences. For example, demonstrate your knowledge of the subject area, and offer his opinion is an argument is supported by evidence. What do you mean by evidence? You've got sources, academic sources, journal articles, let's say authentic websites, and its referenced accurately should be, we've got in-text citation. So the name of the author and the date of the publication as well. Another characteristics of the academic writing is adopts a formal tone and style. So you have to follow a kind of, let's say, a formal style. We've got a formal language, a formal style, okay, using formal language, formal words, okay, not informal words or slang is never allowed in academic writing. So it should be clearly and concisely use appropriate language and tenses to ensure accuracy in meaning. So tenses is one of the key words, one of the key, let's say, issues you have to think about always in academic writing. It's balanced and objective. Definitely should not be subjective. However, sometimes you show your feelings sometimes in some kind of writing, for example, reflective writing, but actually should be absolutely, let's say, objective. Okay? Right. So one of the genres of the academic writing you can find here. Now I'm going to focus on the last one, which is in academic writing, according to cognitive genres or rhetorical functions, we've got three types of academic writing. The first one is descriptive, just you are going to describe, let's say, something, a process or anything. And secondly, we've got critical writing. Nowadays is very popular, especially in the universities, top universities in the Europe or UK or USA. Critical is very important, not describing the situation, but actually you have to criticize, but definitely in a, let's say, in academic ways. And the last one is, for today's, let's say, seminar is reflective writing. We are going to mainly focus on the last one, reflective writing. Okay. Right, reflective writing is the more personal than the other kinds of academic writing. Why is personal? Because you are going to talk about something, your experience, okay? You are going to talk about your experience, and you are going to connect your experience with the academic world, okay? How? So the definition of academic writing, or let's say that reflective writing or reflection according to Oxford English Dictionary is the action or the process of thinking carefully. Thinking carefully and deeply, this is key words. Thinking carefully your experience and deeply in a particular subject. Okay, for example, language is a good example for that. Okay, typically involving influences from the one's part's life and experience. So you are going to connect your experience or part of your life with the academic world. But you have to think carefully and deeply, okay? Right. Why reflective writing? Why we have to write sometimes we need or we want to write something reflectively, okay? Because some things we have to mention. First of all, we've got, especially for the, as I said earlier, in the, let's say, top universities, an increasing number of courses require students to write reflectively. As we know, if you can, let's say we've got some books about writing, how to teach writing, okay? At the end of any section, it was reflective part, okay? This is, is a kind of, many teachers, unfortunately, sadly, neglected this part. It is really important, okay? So, there's a lot of courses nowadays about reflective writing. So their assignment is, teachers in the university ask their students to write something reflectively. So that's why I want to talk about the main focus of today's seminar, which is reflective writing. And there are many differences, different models of the reflection, and it is vital that you follow any guidelines. So, however, we've got one reflective writing, but actually you have to follow the guidelines of the university. For example, your teacher, especially in the master degree or PhD degree, asks the students to write down something reflectively. they've got some kind of guideline they have to follow. It's not something randomly, okay? So this point we have to consider. As I mentioned earlier, you do something more deeply, okay? And learn from your experience. So reflective writing gives you a chance, an opportunity to do something deeply and learn from your experience actually. Let me give you a typical example for that. For example, you don't know about anything about Turkish language, okay? You are going to take a course about Turkish language, and at the end of the, let's say, course, the teacher or you are going to write down your experience. How do you learn basic, let's say, basics about Turkish language, okay? So, you are going to talk about your experience actually in a carefully way, in a deeply way, and you are going to connect or relate your words, your experience with the people who talk about linguistics, who talk about second language acquisition. How do you require this new language personally, and what the authors talk about? About when they require a new language or acquire a new language. Okay, writing your thoughts down make us easier for you to think about, then make a connection between what you're thinking, what you are being taught, and what you are doing. Okay, so reflective writing as a whole idea, you can't write something without thinking. So the first step for writing, any academic writing especially, we have to think about, okay? Think about, so before we talk about reflective writing, we have to talk about reflective thinking actually. This is the key point, okay? Because the first step for any writing, we were thinking. So the first step for reflective writing is reflective thinking. Now, any reflective thinking usually involves, so we've got some elements, some parts of reflective, let's say, thinking. The first one is looking back at something. Often an event, for example, any experience, something that happened, but it could also be an idea or object. So you are going to look back at something, first of all. So, talking about your past experience, okay? Something happened in the past. Secondly, analyzing. So you are going to analyze what happened in the past. Let's say the event in the past, okay? Or the idea, but actually in depth, as I said earlier, is in deeply. Any different viewpoints, perspectives as well. And of course, we've got a model or theory for that, okay? So the first point is, we said you have to look back at something, and secondly, we're going to analysis, a very in-depth analysis, and thirdly, thinking carefully about what the event or idea means for you. What does it mean? You know, interpretation. Okay. I think I talk about this one. What the purpose of reflective writing, as I said, the connection between your experience and the, let's say, academic world, which is you can find in the books. Now, as I said, for reflective writing, you need reflective thinking. And for your reflective thinking, the best way, I think, personally, to the best of my knowledge, it's better to ask some questions for yourself, okay? In order to how to write writing something reflectively, you are going to answer these questions, okay? And at the end, you can find your writing is brilliant. It's fantastic. So, you are going to answer these questions, that's it. For example, this is some model examples here. You can find the books. So what you did in the past, as I said, you have to look back something in the past, and why you did. The first question: what you did and why. The second question. What was good and bad about it? So talk about advantages and disadvantages, okay? Let's say benefits and on the other side. So you have to, this is the second question. Why you find it good? Why do you think this is good? And why you think this is bad? Okay? What do you found easy and difficult? And in your experience, when you, for example, you learn a new language, you are a false beginner, an absolute, let's say, starter in any language. Why do you think that, for example, the spelling of, let's say, Turkish language, when you spell is difficult? And why you find it easy? Okay. Why you find, what do you like it about it, and what do you did? So you like it and dislike it. You love it or not. Okay. And why you felt like that? So always you have to say why, because we want to, look at something deeply. It's easy to say, I like this one and I don't like. It's easy, actually, it's definitely easy, but it is not easy. It is really difficult to answer this question, why? Some of the questions here, what do the people do and why they did it? This about, for the beginning, you are actually asked some questions and you have to answer. But if you ask, this question to other people, what did they say and why? Definitely their viewpoints are different, not the same. Why did you feel about what others did? What other information do you need? Extra information, additional information. Do you think you need it or not? Is it necessary or unnecessary? And what you are going to do differently in this type of situation? Okay, let me give you a sample, an example, a typical example, how you can write something, reflectively. Okay, you've got some question at the beginning. You think, let's say, deeply and concisely, but you got the three parts or the three main elements of when you write down something reflectively. The first part is description. You are going to describe the situation. Okay? The whole situation, you are going to just describe it. Interpretation, explanation. You are going to explain what does it mean. Okay? And the outcome, the consequences, the result, as a kind of conclusion. Let's talk about the first question. The first one is description. You got two main questions here. What happened? So I'm going to describe it. What happened? When you, let's say, sit down in this chair as a false beginner in the Turkish language, as an example, what happened? From the beginning, your class, to the end. The beginning of the course to the end of the course. What's being examined? You are going to look at what? You are going to, for example, here in this room, okay? There's lots of things in this room I can look at, but I can't describe everything. Okay, shelf is here, the camera and the teachers, let's say, data show, everything we've got here. Table, chair, but actually you have to look at something particularly. Not everything. You're not going to examine, look at everything. So just some parts that you needed. You think this is necessary to look at. Second one is interpretation. What is most important? What is most interesting, useful, most relevant to the topic? And the most important idea. So you are going to, which one is most? Okay? Most important, most interesting, and so on. How can we explain it, for example, with theory? So, you are going to, we've got a theory, okay? Second language acquisition, for example. When you learn a new language, a second language, a foreign language, what theories do they said about this particular topic? Okay. And then we've got the outcome. Of course, we should have an outcome. We should have some result. We got some consequences. Okay. What have I learned from this? Do I learn something? A very critical question. What does this mean for my future? So you are going to look at something, as I said, look back at something, but actually in reflective writing you are going to look forward, okay? Look something in the future, not in the past only. Let me, just because I'm going to be running short of time, just have to, language. Language should be, reflective writing should include a description and analysis, as I said. And we can use I, because in academic writing, actually it's not allowed to say I, we, no. But in reflective writing, it's okay to say I, because you talk about something, your personal experience. And secondly, about tenses, okay? Use the past tense because you talk about your experience, okay? And for the theories, for the bookers, you can use present, okay? Present tense, because you think that these ideas are still valid, are still current, are still important. So that's why when, for example, John or Krashen, for example, Krashen in 2000, let's say 12, believes that. So in 2012, it's past, but actually you use present because you think that is still valid, is still important idea. In academic writing, you have to use a formal language, as I said earlier. Okay, so I just looking reflective forward and reflective back as well. Both is very, very important. Yeah, there are some references here for my seminar, the reflective practice, the study skills, and the last was reflective writing. Thank you very much for your attention and for your listening. Thank you very much. If you have any question, any additional comments, I'll be grateful. Yes.
Well done on the seminar. Very good. I have two questions.
Yes.
First one, the reflection operation has source, then surface of reflecting, then receiver. So we are talking about which one, the source or the surface or the transmitter?
Could I say your question again, please? I fully understand. In other words,
the reflecting.
Okay, in reflective writing.
What physics I'm talking?
Physics.
Yes.
Sorry, I don't have any idea of physics.
I just.
Okay. Yeah.
You have got a source.
Yeah.
This source it will be reflected from surface.
Okay.
Got into that another media. So you are talking which one? The source or the media or the reflector?
I think it might be different from the physics, because it's only about writing. As I said earlier, reflective writing is just related to writing. Is an academic writing? I don't have any idea of the surface, because I mean when I read about let's say reflective writing, they didn't talk about such things like that. I don't have any idea. Sorry.
I understand now.
Yeah.
You are talking about the reflective writing. That means you have wrote something.
Yeah.
Then I read it. So what is my expression about your writing, right?
No, not really. No. So your experience, I've got some experience, as I said. For example, especially in the top universities I mentioned earlier. For example, UK, when you study second language acquisition, okay? They've got some theories about second language acquisition. We've got some very important theories, okay? For example, Chomsky said that you acquire a new language in this way, okay? Krashen is one of the linguists in the US. He said you acquire language in this way, okay? Okay, this is our theory, okay? I just read on the book, but actually I want to be in the class, in a new class. I want to learn. I don't have any idea, for example, in Russian language, okay? I'll sit here as a learner. I want to think about myself, my experience, how I learned this language. So at the same time, you are going to read something about how people, how, let's say, academics talk about learning a new language, and practically, how do you learn this language? And actually, you are going to write down your experience here. And you are going to connect your experience to the theory.
So I now understand. That means
Yeah.
you're reflecting.
Yeah.
That you are writing what is the reflecting of you.
Exactly.
Okay, this is one question.
Yeah.
Thank you. The other question. You said for planning and focusing, you need some questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Are these questions that you've mentioned is the same, or I will put my questions?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, actually, I mean, this is a typical questionnaires, okay? There's a model. It doesn't mean always you have to put these questionnaires, okay? And you have to answer them. But you have to think about what's your experience. You know, sometimes you can't, I mean, you can't start because difficult to start actually. Writing, it is difficult to start, you know? That's why I put this question as, I mean, just a model. You can modify it. Sometimes maybe this question is definitely not helpful for you. But this question can help you to design your question. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks for your presentation. Actually, it's one of the best presentation and seminar I've seen in English language.
Thank you very much.
Especially in academic writing.
Yes.
You just focus in the whole day writing, academic writing, you focus on the one type of writing, which is reflective writing.
Yes.
Critical writing, the other writing is
Descriptive writing.
yeah, much more important for the students who study in any field of the academic study in the universities.
Yes.
Regarding to reflective writing, in my opinion,
Yes.
as you mentioned, is related to what? Related to a person or individual's experience.
Exactly.
For example, if you give a question for a student to writing an academic writing in reflective writing, but if the student has not experience, for example, in recycling, they have not get any subject talking about recycling, and you ask them a question of reflecting writing in regard to recycling.
Yes.
How they can use writing or answering the questions in such a way?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. You know, this is one of the concerns we have actually, I mean, especially in the developing countries here. In the developed countries like Europe, let's say, they've got some, I mean, always they've got something practical. You know, I mean, even I think to the best of my knowledge, I mean, in high school, they've got lab, you know, they've got practical I mean, but actually, I mean, one of the concerns, one of the problems actually we do have here, we don't have some good practical, let's say, things. I mean, it's very difficult actually, because definitely you should have experience and look at, let's say, the book as a where this sentences, and if you don't have, sadly, if you don't have any experience, you can't write something reflectively.
I'll just give you an example. When I applied for University of Kurdistan University in 2006, one of the questions is about recycling, but the other question about tourism. Instead of tourism, students writing about terrorism. They didn't get exactly the word tourism different than terrorism.
Yeah.
They made terrible writing.
Yeah, exactly, yes. Tourism and, yes, exactly. It's one of the confusing. It's about English language, you know. Just a few, let's say, letters and a few, let's say, change of the sounds or the different meaning, exactly. Any other questions? Thank you very much for your comments.